Okay, so it is 5:30. Why don't we go ahead and get started? I want to thank everyone for attending. This is the public meeting for the Sandy Subdivision neighborhood improvements. Want to recognize a few folks, introduce myself. First, we have Councilwoman Arnhorst, Nikki Arnhorst, representing the ward. So thanks, Nikki, for being here tonight. My name's Brian White. I'm the Director of Transportation Services at the City of Holland. Some of you look familiar, so again, thank you for coming. Mark Vanderplug, Director of Community and Neighborhood Services. Mark Cornelius, who's a city planner. So thanks for being in attendance here today. We are in the world of COVID here today, unfortunately. What I'd like to do is just recognize that with the seating and things like that, but we are going to have some time at the end for comments, questions, things like that. And I would, again, for the benefit of the viewing audience on YouTube, if you do want to make some comments, I would encourage you to be brief, but maybe come here and make those comments so that the folks at home can also hear those as well. And then we don't have to worry about passing the mic and doing that sort of thing. So as I said, we are doing this on the YouTube channel as well. And so I'm not sure if we're plugged in there, but we're giving it a shot. So those that are on YouTube, if you're hearing this, maybe just give us a quick thumbs up in the chat box. That would be great that we're coming through to you. Okay, so let's get started. Just first, location map, Sandy Subdivision. Again, trying to find a unique name for what exactly we're going to call the group here. But basically everything in red here. And I'll go ahead and use the cursor maybe just to highlight what we've got. So we've got Grasscup Road on the west end. We've got 32nd Street to the south, Ottawa Avenue to the east. And then we go as far north as 29th Street. So all those streets within there, what we're talking about tonight. So just reviewing kind of where what we want to get accomplished tonight, meeting agenda. So do have some slides on the PowerPoint. There's about 15 or 16 slides, so it's not too bad. Want to just review past information, talk about the project components that we're looking at, the project schedule, and then, as I said, have some time at the end for some questions, answer, and comment. So, as I mentioned before, we are broadcasting this on the YouTube channel. I don't know if we've received any Tammy with the, nothing yet, okay. First time for that, so we'll see how that goes. But by all means, those that are tuning in YouTube-wise, feel free to use that chat box for comments that way. Okay. So past meetings, we met at the church there in the neighborhood back on October 1st. That was the first one that we did towards the end of last year. And then we met again January 21st, first of the year. We tried to meet in March. Unfortunately, that's when this whole thing kind of hit with the COVID. So here we sit in July. Felt it was important to connect back with everyone, get comments from folks, try and incorporate what we can, and then move forward with a recommendation to council. So that's where we're at.
Brian, would you like one of these? I see this.
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, I'm all right. If folks don't mind me doing that, I hope. A couple of highlights from the January meeting. As we do with all projects, we look at the crash data. There was 5 crashes in the neighborhood the last couple of years. They show up in yellow, not very good on this screen, but basically crash data is pretty clear on this. No patterns or anything that we were able to identify. You recall we did do a survey at that January meeting, and basically the low score was most important, the higher score, the less emphasis. I know that's not coming through real good, so I want to just go ahead. Pavement condition was number 1 by far, so that had 11 points to it. Again, golf score is good. Drainage was number 2. On-street parking, traffic speed were concerned. That was the 3, 4. And then curb and gutter, sidewalk, those were higher and kind of in their own category in the upper 50s and 60s. Again, just wanted to report back on that. I know you all did the things. This too is going to be available. It's being recorded, so certainly you'll have an option to plug into these and look at them a little more closely. So, okay, so moving on from there, want to talk about the project components. First off, we've been working with Semco Gas, and they do want to do some improvements here, I think, which is good. New utilities is always a good thing. And so we've got a map there that will show you with those planned improvements. I do believe Semco is online too with the chat, so if there's specific questions to Semco, feel free to share those, and then we can try and get an answer yet tonight. Resurfacing. So we intend to resurface the entire neighborhood there, all that, the streets neighborhood that we were talking about there in the red on the map. And again, that's more of an asphalt overlay. Okay, there's no assessments with that. It's just basically putting a layer of asphalt over the existing roadway. There's certainly areas that we'll have to mill out to match into driveways and things like that. So there's an area between Wolverine Pipeline and Ottawa Avenue on 36th Street that's kind of a hodgepodge. Some curb and gutter, some sidewalk, a little bit of storm sewer. It's kind of half done, if you will. So we're proposing one of those project components be that we infill that. We make that all nice and neat and continuous, basically. So that's one of the elements of the project. Another element is sidewalk west of Ottawa Avenue, on the west side of Ottawa Avenue, between 32nd and 29th. I do have slides for these areas too, so we'll get to those. Then sidewalk both sides, 30th Street from Wolverine Pipeline to Plasman. I know that's certainly a topic we'll probably talk more about tonight. And then just wanted to share with you, we reviewed other areas in this neighborhood for sidewalk, and really grades, topography, things like that made it challenging. So that's basically how we came up with our scope here. Tree planting, certainly we typically do this with most of our projects, where we come in at the end, those that want some street trees, things like that. That's a good part of the project. Good part, I like doing it, but certainly we want to understand interest there for that. If there's interest, we're happy to do it. We like doing that kind of stuff. So typically we try and limit that to a couple of trees a parcel. All right, so just keep that in mind. But and we do have a street tree list that's friendly to our infrastructure, so to speak, with root damage and things like that. So again, that's something that we'd like to incorporate into the project if we can. Semco Gas. So again, Plasman, right here, 31st Street stub here, 31st Street, section of 30th Street. That's basically where they're looking at gas improvements. I've got the schedule at the end. We can talk about that, when those gas improvements would occur. Preliminary plan sheets again. So this is basically just putting those words on a picture. Area in green there is for resurfacing. Sidewalk basically down 30th Street. Sidewalk down Ottawa Avenue. And then this curb and gutter here between the pipeline and Ottawa. All right, so let's see here. So just more of a detailed plan sheet for what we intend to do. Plasman Avenue here, 30th Street this way. Got the addresses listed out here. These areas in red are basically just base repair on the existing asphalt. That asphalt's pretty tired. It's been there a long time. So we're going to plan on doing some what we call base repair first before we go in and overlay it. So those areas will get a little more attention there, just to get rid of some of that older pavement that's in distress along through there. And then again, at each one of these driveway approaches, just in order to make those blend in, there'll be a little bit of milling that we do so that when we do come back with that resurfacing, they'll blend together. Sidewalk, typically what we like to do with sidewalk is like to protect that sidewalk, and so we'll infill the driveway approach and basically make that a concrete approach, and again, to protect that sidewalk investment there. So there's a couple out there. Certainly, we'll leave the driveway approaches if they work. If they don't work, we'll rework them, and you'll get back what you had, just maybe a little bit different grade if we need to. Hopefully not, but that's the plan. Wanted to point out curb and gutter limits. Basically, this is that Wolverine pipeline that goes through here. It's also the high point you can see here on the profile view. This is just the elevation of the roadway here, center line, and basically it's the high point in the road where that demarcation is for the curb and gutter. So moving to the east from here, again, just basically doing that. We've got some storm sewer improvements we want to do here. Again, typically with the curb and gutter, you got to have that storm sewer. They kind of go hand in hand. Is that curb and gutter wants to focus that drainage. We want to have catch basins there to receive it and get it to where it needs to go. So there is some storm sewer work that we plan on doing there. And that's kind of in a couple of key areas here. Again, a little bit storm sewer work down here by Ottawa, where we would do that and again incorporate those curbs into that. So that's 30th Street. Then on Ottawa Avenue, basically we're talking about sidewalk just on the west side here. This really is set up, you can see the different pieces and parts of sidewalk that's already there. We're connected into them. I'm going to back up. Same thing here. You know, you've got pieces and parts of sidewalk. We're just going to be connected in. Try and reuse what we can there. Last slide here for these. Again, we're on Ottawa Avenue, 30th Street, 29th Street. And again, running that sidewalk over to there. A lot of folks from the school will come across in this area. We're talking about getting them across with a crosswalk there. Yeah, and that's the high point in Ottawa. So a couple of things on the sidewalk I want to spend a little time with. As some of you may recognize these pictures from last time, but we're going to use them again. Several factors we're plugging into the calculus for sidewalk. You know, we've got this funding, which basically means no assessment, which is great. But so we got funding available. I want to use that. We got minimal impacts to trees and landscaping. We've identified 2 trees, and I think those are pretty favorable in talking with the folks on those 2 tree removals. Again, we'll replace them. Multiple citywide studies. I'm going to ask Mark to maybe talk more about that in a few minutes. A lot of that infrastructure is already built, a lot of existing sidewalk there that we're just connecting into. Connectivity with other sidewalks, so this plugs into 32nd Street, Ottawa Avenue, and just makes that network that much better. And then we do like to put a focus on sidewalks around schools, as we said, and you can see here, you got the school kids walking. One's in the street, one's not in the street. We want to get them all on the sidewalk. And that's wintertime as well.
But how about if cars are parked over the sidewalk? What are you going to do about that?
Right, well, the idea is that, sure, fair question, right? So this is going to be curb and gutter through here, and so they're going to be parking out on the street. There's going to be on-street parking available there. So, there's not a whole lot of widening. It's going to be about 31 feet from back to back. 32 is really ideal for that, but we think 31 will work. So it's a good question, though. Right now, we would propose having parking available on both sides, right? If we see that become an issue, then we can always prohibit parking on one side, leave it on the other.
It's a rated issue.
Yeah, so we'll monitor that, right?
That's where your accidents came from.
Yeah, there was some pretty peculiar accidents there, so I don't know if they were there or not. But at any rate, Mark, do you want to, where's Mark? Yeah. Any comments further on the sidewalk and studies and what have you?
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, first and foremost, the city has a master plan
chat?
Department
Nothing?
as well as other city departments. We really kind of looked at this
Okay.
document for a lot of guidance when it comes to,
Hello?
infrastructure issues, other public investments for the city. And
Anything on the chat that you're seeing?
Only that there's 8 people that are watching, I haven't heard any chatting.
Okay.
quite specific
I don't have any,
with transportation issues. And one of the items that we have here, a major overall goal for the city is that the city of Pownell will have a safe, connected transportation system that serves multiple modes. Okay, so multiple modes means not only just cars, whatever, it also means pedestrians, it means bicyclists. And going along with that then is to make sure that there's adequate facilities for all of those users too, in all different grades of users too. So we have to pay very careful attention to folks who may be wheelchair bound, other kind of physical impediments that they can't get around with, like people that are ambulatory. So certainly sidewalks is of utmost importance to folks like that. So, but just some of the comments that we have here is, do you want me to?
I'd like to hear you what
You like to hear what I have to say?
Sure, yes, sir.
All right, so I'm halfway through it. So some of the action steps that we have is to, like I say, to ensure that all city streets are well maintained and safe for all forms of transportation. So read into that pedestrian also. Continue to mitigate complete street guidelines to accommodate all users. Continued investment in bike and pedestrian infrastructure, including bike lanes and sidewalks. Ensure pedestrian infrastructure accommodates all users. And kind of first and foremost, install new sidewalks in areas where there are gaps in the sidewalk system. And certainly this subject area here, your neighborhood has a lot of gaps in it along 30th Street, Ottawa Avenue. And this certainly is an opportunity to address those issues if we decide to move forward. So this is one document that really provides us with guidance. We have a pedestrian, a bike, and sidewalk plan also that really kind of just has similar comments. Really all just basically, kind of proposing that the city, when given opportunities to provide this additional infrastructure, that we do it, okay? So that's really kind of what I got.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Appreciate that. All right, so schedule. We'd like to bring a recommendation to council next week, Wednesday, with how to proceed on this. Semco gas improvements, we anticipate those will start in September, basically run through September. And again, depending on what we do, we'd get started in September as well, and then finish up end of October. And this is basically for improvements other than the asphalt work, okay? Then the asphalt work will come in at the end. That'll be the last step, I should say, second to the last step, end of October. We typically like to do all our asphalt work in October. Try not to let it slide in November, although sometimes that does happen. So nobody get worried if we do cheat into November a little bit. There's still good days to pave in November. And then tree planting, we typically wait on that. We have a slick way of doing tree planting where we'll use our Vector truck. We'll go ahead and suck a hole with that. It's very neat. And then we'll put the root ball of the tree in that hole, and away we go with some tree stakes. So, yeah, things will tidy up after resurfacing, and then we'll finish it off hopefully with some tree planting. So with that, that's really all the remarks that I had prepared for today. Certainly want to give folks the opportunity to talk and comment. If there's a couple comments, I wonder if we could have that. Do you still have that? Yeah, maybe it'd be easier rather than folks coming up. We can just wander over to them with the mic, give them an opportunity to talk for a few minutes. And we'll handle things that way. How about?
Could you go back to the site plans?
You bet.
That would be probably, I mean,
Yeah, which one particular?
I don't have a question, I think that might help people, I don't know.
Yeah, these?
So, yeah, if you could go through that a little bit, I mean, in detail, just exactly about where sidewalks are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, so basically, we're just not where these, yeah, I guess I didn't do a real good job of delineating where exactly this stuff would go. You know, certainly the idea here is that we put that sidewalk out near the edge of the right of way. We've got some room to work with there, and so we'll try and work with folks there. You know, particularly if there's stuff in the way or a tree or something like that. We have the ability to shift that sidewalk around a few feet without too much trouble. We do like to have it consistent though for plowing and things like that, so our snowplow drivers don't have to guess where that is, so.
What do you mean by? Couple questions. What do you mean by moving it out? How, like, give me some numbers.
Yeah, I think, you know, 3-4 feet, something like that, that's not a problem.
3-4 feet off of the right-of-way line?
Off the right-of-way line?
So
Yeah,
instead of 33 feet, it would be?
30, 29. So here's where we're going with that. One, you know, if we need to miss stuff, we can do that. Two, you know, if you'd prefer that planting to be on the back side of the sidewalk, so it's between the sidewalk and the house, that creates that strip there, right, that we can plant that stuff.
Now, do you have a planting schedule? Because in my particular case, I wouldn't want any trees added.
Well, you don't have to. So nobody's obligated for the trees. So it's really up to you whether or not you'd like the trees.
I mean, for reasons, I have a drainage issue I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
I don't want a tree in there. I don't want any other trees other than the tree that I have.
Yeah. You know, there's a group too, the MAC. If there are drainage issues and things like that, folks will do rain gardens and things like that. We're just kind of dabbling in that. So if somebody's interested in that sort of thing, let me know. And I can put you in touch with the folks at the MAC who's been working with us. We've got a few of them in on 19th Street. That's a curb and gutter street. We're going to put a few more in on 20th and 21st. But again, if you're aware of a drainage issue, that may be the way to go, because we're limited with the amount of storm sewer that we're putting in, and we really don't want to cross this gas main with storm. It's a high pressure gas main. We just as soon leave that one buried. So we want to basically focus that underground work to the.
In conjunction with what Mark was saying with the plan,
Yeah.
why would you not put a sidewalk on the west side of Plasma to tie into the bus stop?
Sure. Yeah, you know, and that, I think somebody brought that up before too. And so we'll work with Max on the bus. But at this point, yeah, we're just talking about the one side of Plasman for that. You know, there very well could be some topographic issues over there. I know that we did put the sidewalk in on the east side, and I think that was largely due to some topography things. We looked at all these areas in terms of where we can get this sidewalk in, and really topography played into a lot of that.
It's pretty flat. All of Plasma's pretty flat on both sides of that.
Yeah,
There isn't really a topography issue on that one, other than people are going to be standing in the snow because there isn't anything there for them for the bus stop.
yeah, okay. Well, like I say, we'll work with Max on that, and that bus stop very well may move a little bit, may switch sides.
Yeah, well, it was moved from 32nd on the Plasman because of the traffic on 32nd,
Okay,
which is why they put it on Plasman for traffic issues.
got it.
And so now it's in a good spot
Yeah.
for those that need it. Unfortunately, in the bad weather, the elements, it's not in a great spot.
Understand, but when I say move it, I mean keep it on plasma, just maybe put it in a better spot. So, something that's tied into that sidewalk.
Okay.
Anything else, Malcolm?
Not at the moment. I mean, I'm not a fan of the sidewalks. I mean, and you and I have talked about
Yep.
this, and I can, you're not going to buy me for just putting an individual sidewalk from that gas line to Plasman. I will never be a fan of that. I will be a fan of making Sandy Subdivision look like other neighborhoods where they have curb, they have gutter, they have sidewalks, they tie into grass skip. I mean, if you completed the entire neighborhood, I would have a different perspective. But by piecemealing it, let's look at history. It's been 50 years since anything's been done between the Wolverine gas line and Ottawa Avenue. Those were built in the 70s, and nothing's been done. I've lived 32 years, and they haven't put one piece of asphalt on there except patches. They've never resurfaced that road. 28th Street, which was recently done, has also been recently repaved within that 30-year period. So we've sort of been the stepchild on the other side of Ottawa Avenue not getting that fixed.
Well, here we are.
Exactly. So 50 years from now, we'll talk about from Plasman west for the rest of the sidewalk.
Well, let's try and work together and get something in that we're all comfortable with. I mean, hopefully everyone was willing to give a little bit here, and we can get a project that maybe nobody's completely 100% behind, but at least maybe partly behind.
And I agree.
And I
But
think we have an opportunity, we really do have an opportunity to replace the window, if you will, right?
okay.
You know, the whole broken window thing.
But I think there's a little more, needs to be a little more consideration on where that sidewalk's going to be. 3 feet from 33 to 30 is not much movement. Now, 3 other neighbors, not myself, have suggested widening the road with like a bike lane type
Yeah.
sidewalk for that area.
Yeah,
Pretty good idea, and it keeps people
So-
from walking in there.
yeah, and I understand where that's coming from. You know, for us, though, constructing a sidewalk that's separated, you know, you're talking about a 4-inch thick thing of concrete, basically, that's the sidewalk
Sure.
cross-section. To bump out that road section, right, that's a whole different cross-section, basically, because you got a full-size plow running over there, clearing it, and that sort of thing. The other thing, too, is that gives the appearance of a pretty wide road, and so the traffic calming, right, kind of goes out the window there, because you got this big expanse of asphalt all together.
Okay,
So,
all right, so if we
again, I
don't do
think-
that,
Yeah, yeah,
let's move the sidewalk closer to the road.
right,
Other than 30 feet to the center line to 30 feet is
Sure.
the far end, move it down, make it another 10 feet, push it 10 feet out a little more, making consistent going down Plasman.
right. Yeah, like I say, I think we have some room to wiggle there. I don't know how much room we have. We still have to have snow storage and things like that. We do like to have trees in there and that sort of thing to break it up, so.
So when would that determination be made to move the sidewalk to where we're suggesting? If we have wiggle room, can we determine when we're within that wiggle room?
Right, so I guess, you know, coming into this thing, I'm thinking 3 to 4 feet in my head. Right, what do you have in mind, Malcolm?
Whatever's feasible to move it closer to the road.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
I-
that's what I'm, that's,
But I'd like to see it closer, more than 3 to 4 feet,
yeah. Yeah.
only because there are some trees you're gonna come by that you're pretty close where you're gonna be cutting roots.
Right,
And I only have one in my yard, my neighbor only has one in his yard, you know, and it is a shock to the tree when you cut them that close.
sure, I can,
And I don't think you wanna have a whole bunch of circles going
no,
down.
no,
yeah.
we don't wanna, right. that
So
is not
I
the
would,
intent.
I would ask that you go a little farther, closer to the road.
Duly noted. Yep,
Nebraska Road has places, there's 3 feet of grass and then the sidewalk off the road.
yes.
I mean,
That's not ideal. We wouldn't wanna go in
the
that,
ideal
right?
for me,
Understand,
I have a large
Yeah.
tree and I don't want to dam.
Yeah.
And also, Plasman Ave, last year you snuck that dang sidewalk in there. You ever try to walk in that thing with the dogs barking and all the junk there? The guy had a damn junkyard there half the winter. People were calling, complaining, nothing got done. You walk along there, the dog loose half the time. And then it's, oh yeah, he wants to do his landscaping. Drive by, look like crap, there are weeds halfway up his truck, now it's an abandoned house.
yeah,
Think of the people around there. It's supposed to improve it, it made it worse.
yeah.
How about 29th Street where it dead ends? I heard all that land was sold from Colonial Green Apartments, they're gonna put 20 houses in there, I was told. Habitat, I heard, bought a bunch of land in there, they're putting a bunch of houses into 29th, I was told.
Yeah, I am not aware of that, but it's entirely possible. That's a private property thing, right? There's a
Yeah,
method.
in that field there, I heard Colonial Green Apartments sold some of that land, they're talking about putting a lot of houses, continuing 29th Street, putting houses. Yeah, me too.
I'm not aware of that, but again, it's possible. Again, that's a private property thing, right? If there's development, there's a process for that, and they'll go through that process.
So there's no sidewalk plan for 29th Street.
No,
There's no sidewalk plan west of Plasman,
no.
ever?
At this point in time, never say never,
Well,
right?
30 years, 35
Right.
years,
70,
70
Right.
years,
70 years,
70 years?
70 years since the development.
Okay. All right, any other questions or comments?
With the The Semco work, is that going to be digging up the road?
No, they
Um,
typically do that with directional boring. So there's gonna be bore pits and things like that.
What is that?
Yeah, it's a spot location where they'll dig up, the area, and then they'll thread that new pipe through.
Oh.
You've probably seen them. Horizontal drilling, yeah. So
Okay,
but every time there's a service to a house, they have to dig that location up to make that connection.
I just had mine replaced a couple years ago.
Okay, yeah,
the
this is
road.
main work, yeah,
Also,
yes.
what's it going to be like driving in that area while this whole process is going on?
Yeah, so it'll be a little bit challenging. You'll be able to get around the construction, right? That shouldn't be a problem, but, again, when that concrete's poured, there may be times of the day, a couple of days where that concrete has to cure. So you won't have access into your drive, you'll just have to park on the street. Again, the street's gonna be there, right? Not like we're tearing up the street, save for a couple of those places where we're doing storm sewer. But that storm sewer is fairly shallow, so you'll be able to navigate around. You may have to come in from one end versus the other at times. The outside of the concrete and the cure time on the concrete, the day that we pave, okay, that's gonna be somewhat of a disturbance, because you typically have to allow that asphalt to cool down for a few hours. And so we typically will get notices out. A lot of times we'll have a message board as well out there broadcasting the timing and things like that. So you'll have some advance notice of that. And then I know in terms of parking and things like that, we may try and work with the church to see if they'd be willing to let folks park overnight in their lot on that day of paving. But I don't know. That's something, when we get to that point, we'll investigate some options and see. But you'll know in advance of that paving day. And I always try and plug this, it never fails where it will rain on the day of paving, right? Murphy's Law. Typically, we will default to the next business day. So if we're paving on a Thursday, we'll go to the Friday, assuming weather's good. If we are paving on a Saturday, we typically will not pave on a Sunday. So that'll defer to the Monday. Okay? All right. A few more hands.
I apologize if a lot of this is repeated. I haven't been to any of these meetings before. I'm a new-time homeowner, new to Holland. But I wanted to go, could you explain more about the cost of all of this?
Sure. There's no cost to the, at least what we're proposing here is no assessments with this.
Okay,
So there's no cost to any of the homeowners for this. You know, some of these types of improvements do carry with them assessments. So it's kind of nice that we've got this grant opportunity. We can avoid that assessment piece. The other thing is that, you know, typically with curb and gutter, we typically assess that. That's a pretty straightforward, cut and dry thing. But this is such a hodgepodge with curb and gutter existing already there that we're just proposing the infill, basically, to kind of, again, spruce that area up and connect it all together. So we're not proposing any, a little bit of a one-off or a hybrid thing, but no assessments for what we're doing. If we did like a wholesale curb and gutter, like Malcolm was talking about in the neighborhood, we'd have to assess that, right? So then there'd be some cost there. But we're
And
not proposing that.
and then just to repeat, did you say no sidewalks on 29th Street at all?
No sidewalks, no. Again, we looked at it, you know, there's some great issues, and there's a fair amount of established street trees right where we would
Yeah.
normally want to put it. So we're not going to do that.
Okay.
Hi. In the neighborhood, all the driveways seem to be marked for some sort of delineation.
Yes,
What is that all about?
yeah, so that's the mill. So when we go through and we try and blend into these driveways, the asphalt work is basically an overlay, you know, so there's 1.5 inches of thickness basically that gets added to the road. So we try and blend that into the driveways, and in order to blend that in, we gotta mill out about 1.5 inches, just right along that driveway frontage to get us to match in. So that's where those paint marks come in. That's what we're doing. You might just hold that mark maybe, so we don't keep passing it.
Well,
Just
All
the,
right.
I want to be
All right,
back way a little too.
fair enough.
The driveways that are gravel right now, is there gonna be anything done on that? Because that's between the curb and the sidewalk.
The driveways that are gravel?
Yeah.
Yes, we wanna, as it's shown here,
I can't see that far.
yep, sorry, and I wish we had bigger screens, right?
I know.
But, yeah, we're proposing to infill those driveway approaches with concrete approaches, so
So
no more,
the
no
whole
more
thing-
gravel.
Now, I sent a message after that
See
email,
these outlines there kind of depict that.
because in our gravel portion of our driveway
Yeah.
is that sewer thing. I think, Tammy, you sent me the message back.
Drainage structure? Oh, okay, yep.
Is there gonna be something done with that?
We'll
My-
incorporate that into the approach typically.
Okay, because my question on that
Yep.
is, the little children in the neighborhood like to put stones down there,
Oh, yeah.
and I don't know how much it's
As long as
hurting.
it's not basketballs, we're in good shape.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure on that, but
Yeah.
the driveway there in front of all of us, because like, our neighbor's driveway is gravel, and it's
Yep.
got a pretty big hole in it
Yeah,
from
again,
road.
when that curb and gutter goes in, right, we're gonna put grass behind the curb and gutter, and then these approaches will be concreted in to the sidewalk.
Okay,
So it'll
You-
be a defined thing.
already have curb and gutter.
What's that?
We already have curb and gutter.
Yeah.
stops,
so we'll-
it
we'll-
stops right there.
Got it. So you will have a concrete approach between the curb and the sidewalk.
Right.
Yes.
Great. Now, you had said there's some trees coming down?
Yes. You wanna know where those are?
Yes.
Fair question. And if somebody's here representing those, I don't think they are, because I recognize, so one of them is at 559, and then the other one is here, and I think it's basically 583, 587. Those are the two that we're talking about. I do think there's an ornamental one, is that with Johnson? Yeah, okay, we're gonna be out in front of that, yep. So,
Hang on.
this one? This one? This guy?
No, that's not my tree. Yeah, but what about that tree?
Yeah, no, that's gonna stay, I think it's this one that's right next to the drive approach here. Right, yeah, yeah, that's the one.
What about the one in front of us at 484 West
No more
30th?
trees, just those two.
Well, my question is because
Yep.
when they took out two of those humongous roots because it was pushing the sidewalk up,
Yep,
that tree started having problems, and there's a big, huge divide
okay,
in it, and I can't get rid of the ants
yeah,
with it, because they're
Ah.
all around it, huge ones.
good comment. So, what's the address on that one?
It's in front of 484/486 West 30th Street. It's a rust-colored L-shaped duplex.
And there's a tree next to the existing sidewalk.
Yes, it's between curb and sidewalk,
Okay,
and they had to
Not in the
repair the
best of shape.
sidewalk there.
okay. Got it, thank you. for
Thank
sharing
you
that.
very
So
much.
we'll,
Appreciate it, Brian.
Yeah. Typically what we do, and we didn't do it with this one because we didn't foresee a lot of the tree impacts. We typically have an arborist go through and evaluate the trees. And so like on 20th Street that we're doing, on all these, 10th Street next year. So we have them evaluate that, and we have, surprisingly enough, found some safety concerns like that, which I think now is a great time to address those. So we'll have somebody look at it,
Okay.
and then make that determination.
Knock on my door.
Yeah, sure. But we'll have somebody check into it.
Can I meet with you and maybe have a meeting?
Yeah, I mean, I've got some time here. I do have to run around 6:30, so.
It'll only take 5 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
I have a
it-
question,
it's
just
a-
because I need to clarify for myself,
Yeah.
having spatial relation problems here. So, to clarify, the road, 30th Street, let's do 30th, from Ottawa to going west to Plasman will be resurfaced,
Yes,
asphalt.
yes, new
Okay.
asphalt.
And then from the Wolverine line going east to Ottawa, that will be curb and guttered with the grant.
I don't know about the grant, but we will infill that curb and gutter. Yes.
Okay. And then west of the Wolverine, curb and gutter or no?
No,
Okay,
no. And again, the reason for that is there's no existing curb and gutter there. And if we did put curb and gutter there, we would really look at an assessment at that point. just because it's an all-new infrastructure. Because that area east of Wolverine has some existing curb and gutter, we're just infilling that, basically.
And that's not gonna look odd.
What?
That's not going to look
It,
odd.
it's a transition, I don't,
Okay.
it's a transition.
Okay. Then both sides of the streets from Ottawa to Plasman will have sidewalks.
Yes,
And you will work with the neighbors to be a little creative,
You
to
bet. We'll
avoid.
try and squeeze and wiggle and things like that. Again, we try and keep it somewhat close on the alignment, but certainly want to pay deference to trees and things like that, right?
And
we like 'em.
windows.
What's that?
And looking in people's windows.
Oh, I
I mean,
understand, and that's where I think, take us up, if we create a planter space behind the sidewalk, right, in that right-of-way area, that's still a street tree, a city tree, okay? But if that helps create some screen, I mean, take it, I would encourage you to take, I personally like the trees, I think it does a lot for traffic calming. And, I do, I think it would be helpful if we can get some in there.
And the last thing is, from Plasman to Grafskip, any asphalt, no sidewalks.
From Plasman to Grascup, all asphalt, yep.
Is
So
that
this
asphalt?
This whole neighborhood, everything in green is gonna get asphalt.
Okay.
Yep,
But, but no sidewalks,
correct.
okay. Which.
Which is good. My driveway's like that.
There are legitimate grade concerns in those areas, yes. We looked at it.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just wanted to clarify, thank you.
The real,
I think we
Okay, him.
had some,
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah, let's have some folks,
I'll get back to you.
Couple questions. One, sprinkling systems.
what's that?
Sprinkling systems.
Okay, good question. So if and this is somewhat new, we've done in the last few years. If you've got a sprinkling system, we think that's great, right? You're able to keep the public right of way in good shape. In the past, we had always said you have to repair your own sprinkler. We typically put a sprinkling allowance in the contract, and so we would do the same here. If we do something to the sprinklers, we'll fix them. If you've got a sprinkler contractor that you'd like us to use, we're happy to use them, but we want to reserve the right to look at their quotes, right? Because sometimes they can get a little squirrely. So we typically know what a sprinkler repair is, cost-wise, and so we'd want that opportunity to bring in somebody else if the cost seems a little bit out of whack. The other thing we'd like folks to do with sprinklers is to mark them ahead of the project. And again, you'll get another notice out before anything rolls into the field, but we would ask that you mark your sidewalk, have them flagged, so we know where they're at.
This other question was on that approach,
Yes,
from the sidewalk to the road.
yep.
Now,
What address are you?
actually,
Yeah. So we would be putting concrete in between the curb edge, I'm
And-
sorry, the
and-
road edge.
and the road.
Yes,
You're going to replace the whole thing?
yes,
Okay, that's,
yep. Hopefully that makes snow plowing a little better. See. Hold on one second.
Ottawa, question on Ottawa Avenue.
Yes. Let me get to a spot here. Okay, yeah, Ottawa?
Well, it's the location of that crosswalk.
Yes.
Why did you decide at the end of 28th rather than the end of 30th?
Yeah, we're actually talking 29th.
Okay,
Yeah, and, so I think a lot of kids walk across there at this point now anyway. We typically are pretty careful about mid-block crosswalks. Don't like to necessarily put them in a whole lot of spots, but at any rate, the kids are doing it already. So we wanted just to create a space for that to happen. We wanted to try and to have as much line of sight as possible, right? And so that seemed to offer some there where you're kind of at the top of the hill, so to speak. It's not ideal, don't get me wrong. If they weren't crossing there already now, we probably wouldn't do it. But they're crossing there, and so let's try and make things better.
And if you did it on Union Street, a lot of times traffic is back, almost at their passed.
Got it.
Oh, yeah. From Ottawa, that's not 32nd, that's up way far.
Oh, you're talking for this movement? for the southbound movement for vehicular traffic? Yeah. Okay, yeah, that probably good to get away from 32nd then, so, yeah. Thanks for that information.
Oh.
Putting it on 30th at Ottawa going east-west crosswalk, that's gonna be dangerous because those people coming up that hill southbound, they blow through that.
Yeah, and again, yeah, so at 29th Street, you got a little more line of sight to do that with.
Yeah, even going down that hill, but there's so many times those, even the semis that come through there from the gas place,
Yeah.
they're blowing through.
Yeah. Understand.
It's probably outside of your purview, but then it's working with Kimmel Auto Body and also Ottawa Auto Repair of making sure they aren't parking on the sidewalk.
Right, right. Now, I had a long discussion with Dan about that this afternoon. So, again, I think,
There's a variance that says there's not a sidewalk there, that I
Right.
got approval for 6 years ago.
understand. And again, that was then, this is now.
I understand that, but
yeah.
I'm not parking on somebody's sidewalk.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, which business are you at?
Ottawa Avenue.
Ottawa, and which
he's the
On
corner.
Corner of Ottawa and 30th.
30th or
30, the car repair place.
down on 29th?
No, 30th.
30th.
And I think you guys have been doing it, so we've seen this at the beginning of the project, and we've seen it now, and I think you have been doing a great job of, keeping the cars kind of more orderly and things like that, so thanks for doing that. Appreciate it.
I will say it does seem like in the
Doesn't
last
it?
year,
It seems better.
It has been better.
So,
in the
hey,
last
give the
year
guy some
when I
credit,
first
right?
moved
Yeah,
on
it's like
to-
great.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to credit him with the fact that people who used to own that before
Yeah,
would pile the snow up at 30th and Ottawa, so
Okay.
you couldn't see what was coming. And I have not seen a
Great.
pile like that. You're putting it elsewhere, and that, for us as drivers, is appreciated.
good,
Well, we want everybody to be safe, so you can see.
right.
We appreciate that, trust me.
Good.
We get more business if we do it the other way.
Okay,
Area marked for sidewalk, or is it indicated where a sidewalk would be?
No, there's a short stub on the corner of 30th and Ottawa,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's nothing else to the next property to us.
Why, are you gonna indicate where his parking is and mark it for a sidewalk?
So we'll cast in the sidewalk. There won't be any marks or anything like that, but the sidewalk will be independent. You'll see the 6x6 squares going through.
On his pavement?
Within the drive approach, yes.
Yeah, within his.
Yeah.
okay. So they're gonna, so you will, still will be marked, so someone can see.
If you want to call that marking it, but it won't be painted or anything like
Yeah,
that.
right.
Saw cut it?
Right,
Saw cut it, groove it?
right.
I mean, I'm looking at the same thing that was done to my driveway
Yep.
on the approach.
Yeah. I haven't seen your driveway, sorry, Malcolm. Haven't seen it yet, but I'm assuming that that's,
Well, Eric and
Yep.
Al saw it at length, and we discussed this thing at length, so.
yeah. Okay.
I have a question regarding approach.
Yes.
Now, you said that it will be concrete?
What address are you? Yeah, all the approaches we typically do with a concrete sidewalk, we'll do concrete approach.
Okay, if I don't have sidewalk, then what?
Where are you located?
605, that's right next to Posman, just
Okay.
west,
605,
the first?
I'm not seeing 605.
Just west of Plaza.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're not gonna be there with sidewalk. We're not proposing that here.
Right,
Yeah.
but what do you do with the approach?
Oh, we're not doing anything with the approach. Now, when we do the asphalt work,
Mm-hmm,
right, if you have an asphalt driveway,
yep,
then we'll typically feather that inch and a half out onto your driveway.
okay.
Yeah. If you have a concrete driveway, we don't feather, we'll do the grind out in front and we'll match.
Well, I have concrete, but I also have asphalt.
Okay, well, then you'll get a little bit of both, probably. Lucky you. No, we may grind that whole thing then and just blend the asphalt. Okay. Oh, we got it.
I don't need Mike, just, it's been a little hard to see from back here and appreciate everything, but will this be distributed or anything?
Yeah, it will. So, we've got it on the YouTube, and then we'll have it. So if you search the city website, you'll be able to find it. If not, call transportation, 2400, and we'll get you the link.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just one quick question. I want to go back. You said you weren't going to quite make that section from Ottawa Avenue to like the Colonial Green or whatever it was before. You're widening that part of the road and putting curb and gutter and everything in there, but you're not going to widen it the normal?
Yeah, so we want to try and utilize the existing infrastructure that's there.
Mm-hmm.
That existing infrastructure is typically about 31 feet back to back.
Okay.
On a typical street, 19th Street, 20th Street, what we're doing, we typically go 32 back to back, and we allow parking on both sides. So we're talking about a foot of difference, and I think we'll find that, granted, you'll have to slow down, right, which is traffic calming, but you'll be able to park on both sides and then just kind of skinny by folks. Again, if that becomes an issue, right, if we have an issue, then we would look at limiting some parking maybe in order to improve that. So,
Okay,
so we
'cause-
have some options to go through with that.
Brian, how long does it take to address that? If there is a parking issue and you have to address one parking on one side, how long?
Yeah, so typically we'll wait for folks to contact us, right? If we see an issue, we'll bring it up, but we have a traffic committee that meets every month. The no parking prohibitions, or no parking signage rules, have to go to council for approval. So typically what happens with this is, we get the complaint, we take it to the traffic committee says, yep, looks like it, maybe we'll send somebody out, take a look at it, right? Typically PD does that. And then we'll bring that to the next council meeting. Now, at the next council meeting, they'll table it, and then they'll issue notices out to everybody in the area, because some people may like the parking, right? So then we basically post and say, hey, we're looking at putting no parking here, give us your input at this next council meeting, right? And so it typically takes 2 council meetings to get that through the system, so that's why I'm just laying it out for you. So, but that's the process that it would take.
Probably 3 to 4 months.
Hopefully not that long, but yeah, you're talking a couple of months, right? Because you got a month prior for the traffic committee, and then you got every 2 weeks of the council meeting. So it is, yeah, you're talking a ways out. You're probably not far.
Just one more quick little question. There is an area in the road in front of where we live that every year you guys have to come back and fill it up.
Yes,
Does that mean there's a problem underneath?
yes, so possibly, quite possibly, we've got a few of those. In fact, there's one of them on here that we want to look at. Let's see if I can find it, this guy right here.
Which
So,
is where?
I'm not sure if that's it. So, again, when we look at the underground utility maps and things like that, we don't see anything that just jumps out at us, but we're gonna look at it anyway. So, there's other areas, just make sure you flag us. Okay. Take a look at them.
And what has been your experience with garbage pickup and leaf breaking while all of this is going on?
That's a good, you're thinking there. So, garbage pickup will happen as normal, okay? We ask that you put your address number on your can, okay? Because sometimes the garbage truck can't get in, and we'll have a loader from the contractor bring it out to the curb or to the side of the street. So, again, we want your can to get back to your house. So if you can put your address number on it, that would be great. Leaf pickup. So we would really appreciate if you hold off on leaf pickup, right, until the asphalt gets down, and then go to town on leaf pickup and we'll get it. But in process of construction, if you can hold off on the leaves, that would be great. We'll try and give you some nice days in November. Do that with. Yeah. Yes, yes. In that time frame, right? And, it could be a week one way or the other, it could be even a little more than that. So you'll be getting correspondence from us before we start the project, before any construction happens. Now, I say that, Semco may come out of the gate, right? And they typically don't notice. So just know that if there's some activity out there, it may be Semco jumping in. But before we do anything, we'll go out, we'll get the notices, let you guys know the contact numbers and things like that. We typically give you the contractor contact number, 24 hours if there's an emergency, water service leak, something like that, that you can get a hold of somebody 24/7, so.
Are you going to be going to every house
With,
Semco?
yeah, I think there are new services in that area. Where is that map at? Yeah, so all through this area here, new gas main, and again, it sounds like some services are new, but if you've got an old service, they'll put a new one in. I know there's some definite safety upgrades and things like that with that, so it's good. Good deal to get that infrastructure in there. And it's good timing, you know, you won't even know they've been there after we pave it, so.
On our last meeting, I had a comment a lot of people really liked. Our roads are in rough shape, it'd be great to just blacktop the road and go from the gas line east with sidewalks, and from the west of the gas line, have you checked how many houses are there that affected, if any of those people even want a sidewalk? So if you have 8 houses there, or 9 houses there, and nobody wants it, why would you do it? Because it's a
Yeah.
residential, or the rental place makes a difference.
Yeah, yeah.
If there's 9 houses and 9 people that own and pay taxes don't want it, why would you do it?
Yeah, no, and I understand where you're
But it
coming
doesn't
from there.
make it Bill Beans does,
Well,
you know?
but again, we're looking at more than just the individual location, right? We're looking at folks that use it citywide. We're looking at the fact that there's already some infrastructure there. We're looking at connectivity with other sidewalks to get in everything.
Always
connected.
Sandy Lane and 29th Street and keep going and going and going.
I understand. And again, we
I mean,
talked
don't go
about,
half-assed, you do it right, do it all.
right. And we talked about some of the challenges there with that already with topography and things, so.
But, yeah, there's no way we can fund this. The residential and the rentals. We can't, we don't want.
We understand.
And you know what?
You don't want
There's
sidewalk from Wolverine Pipeline to Plasma at all?
Correct.
No, we don't.
You owner, you're a landowner.
Yeah.
You
Yes,
don't
we are.
want any.
No, we don't.
Why? Why is it so bad to have sidewalk?
How about every time a dog craps my yard, you pick it up, or beer bottles, or junk, or cigarettes?
Okay.
You really think it's going to be that?
Hey,
I have it now. It's
Okay.
gonna get worse with people walking.
yeah. You know what? I really don't want this to go in that direction. You know, I tell you what, I'm certainly willing to work with you in terms of where that sidewalk lands. And hopefully we can, again, try and make the best out of it. If there's some landscaping or something like that, again, I'm interested, so.
We're disappointed though.
I understand,
We're very disappointed.
I understand.
A couple people that I didn't get on the sign-in sheet, so if you didn't get, I didn't come around to you, stick around for just 1 second, I'll catch you when we're wrapping up.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Yep.